This is a major sell-off has taken its toll on many sectors, including commodities. Here to help us break it all down are Chris Swift, the founder of Swift Trading Company, and Todd Horwitz, chief strategist at Bubba Trading. Thank you both for being here. So first, we really want to touch off on the Friday and what you said regarding gold. You wrote that I can't say that gold shorts are panicking quite yet, but I can see a change in the pattern, and with all the negative liquidity that it's had surrounding the gold since the highs in February 19th, the bottoms may finally be in. So what's your latest take on the gold market?
Well, I think gold is going higher. I think that, we saw the bottoms put in. We saw the 1270 level hold a number of times. We got a couple of attempts to break through, and then finally on Friday we broke out to the upside, and we're continuing today. So I think gold has now reversed the downtrend we've been in and is now going higher. Now some of that's because of some of the uncertainty in the markets. Some of it's just because it was well oversold. And another thing is just the straight trend is now to the upside. So now I think you want to be a buyer of gold. I think we at least test, the 1250, maybe 1350, or maybe even 1400 before this move is over. So I think we're going much higher now.
Now, Chris, over to you. You had some really good comments last Friday on the recent rally in the corn markets. So right now, given what you see with the tariff threat against Mexico from the White House, what is your take on the consequences of this rally and then the sharp turnaround on Friday for the markets in cattle and beef?
Sure. On the corn market, what we saw more than likely is just the lack of being able to get that corn crop in the ground. Last Friday, we were at 58%. This Monday, we're looking to be somewhere around 70 to 71% on the planting intentions there. I think the decline in the market that we saw over the weekend is due to the tariff issue with Mexico. I think that traders and everybody's getting kind of tariff fatigue. It was a slogan that was coined this morning, so I can see where a lot of us would have that issue out there with the tariffs. We've just seen so much of it, and seemingly they might not be working.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of that tariff fatigue, back to Todd, as we mentioned, the delegation from Mexico is here today, a high-level delegation to try to convince Trump to change course. And Mexico, of course, is a huge ag exporter to the United States. What are we seeing in terms of market reaction so far from that threat? And I'm thinking in terms of two key exports, tomatoes and avocados. What's the outlook for prices for a side of guacamole after this latest drama?
Well, I got to tell you something. As Chris said, the grains have been going higher. Okay, they're more of a supply-demand issue, and for years we had well oversupply. So we've had a tremendous rally. I mean, corn sold off 4 cents today, which is after a $1.20 rally isn't much to talk about. So I think the grains are going high. I think President Trump is doing absolutely the right thing to take care of the border, and they're going to have to come in. One of the things we have to remember is we still are the biggest supplier. They're still going to have to come to us, tariffs or not. And if they don't want to take care of the border issues, then they're going to be without, or they're going to pay more money. I think it's a simple plan, but the grain markets themselves really continue to push themselves higher, and I think that makes sense because now there is going to be possibly some short supplies, and all of a sudden we went from this oversupplied to get conditions to some issues. So I think that's what you're seeing, and I think in the cattle market you saw some forced liquidation on Thursday and Friday. I mean, we did most of the volume within 5 minutes in both feeder and live cattle on Thursday and Friday. So to me, that looks like it's a bank or somebody forcing somebody out on a forced liquidation trade.
Now, Chris, on Friday, you also recommended to hold all long positions on corn. Is that also your advice this week?
Yes, it is. As a matter of fact, we don't know what the damage to this crop can be just yet. Even if they end up getting 100% of the yield of the acres in the ground, you'll have some yield detriments, and you'll also have a lot more unharvested acres with the mudding in of corn and some of the flooding that we've seen around the low-lying bottom fields.
Now, Chris, you also flagged a rally in the bond market. What should we know about that situation?
Well, that's been pretty interesting. Anytime you have to start lowering the price of money to entice someone to come and borrow it, there's some issues involved out there. And what we look at for our producers out there is a lot of them use borrowed money. So now that we've had a little break in the interest rates after we saw the 2018 rise in interest rates, this is a little bit of a reprieve for them. So it looks to me with the rates back down the way they are right now, and the bond market been up 8 days in a row, it might not be about time to talk with your lender about readjusting some debt.
And Todd, just to get back to, we're always talking about tomatoes and avocados when it comes to Mexico. Let's bear down on that. Is it really going to be as extreme as people are predicting with those particular commodities if these tariffs really go through?
No, I don't think so at all. Again, I think, in my opinion, the companies use this to raise their prices, whether they get raised or not. And if the problem is, unlike oil, oil goes up and down, and the companies scalp a few cents off it. Unlike that, you go to a restaurant or you go to a supplier, they raise your price. They never come back down. I've never seen Starbucks bring a cup of coffee back down after coffee's at 10-year lows. So again, I think it's just more of a bunch of rhetoric, and it doesn't mean anything. And they're just going to raise your prices because they can, because it's acceptable, and they'll just make more profit. Let's watch their earnings reports when they come out in the quarter and see how much more profit they made after all this wiping my brow tariff talk.
Chris Swift of Swift Trading and Todd Horwitz of Bubba Trading. Thank you both so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you.